Yo, what's up? Gonna wait for a few more people to get in here because I put 11:30 p.m. instead of a.m. It's 11:30 a.m. right now. So I'm gonna wait for a few people to check to see that I'm on live, and then I'll start talking. Um, it's gonna be a ton of topics today. Here to catch up. It's been a while, and I want to discuss all of the topics that's going on in boxing right now today. All right. Just wanted to pop up and give you my thoughts on everything. I have a long list of topics that I've been wanting to discuss. And, I was on vacation for a little bit. I'm glad to be back. I did see the fights from last night. I'm going to talk about those fights. And I'm also going to talk about some of the news that we've gotten all week. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the fights from last weekend as well today. All right. And I'm also going to bring on a lot of fights that's coming up. So it's going to be a long live today. I'm going to be here with you guys for a while. And I want to cover all of these fights, man. There's a lot of fights, upcoming fights, past fights, recent fights. And we're going to get right into it. So there's a little bit more people join up. All right. Hope everyone is doing well and having a good weekend. It's been a while since I've been live. All right. Most of my content has been just me recording content. But all right. Yeah, so we're gonna start off with talking about last night's card on the zone. Okay. There was a matchroom card last night. I didn't watch the entire card. But we're gonna mainly discuss the main event because there's a lot of controversy behind last night's fight, the main event between Richardson Hitchins and Gustavo Lemos. Okay, it was actually a pretty competitive fight. I wouldn't say it was a good fight, and I'll let you know why in a sec as soon as I get to that. But we're definitely going to start out with that, all right? And then we're going to talk about a lot of current events. A lot of upcoming fights has been announced, some good, some bad, some I don't really care for. And then we're going to go on and discuss a lot about 154. I think there's so much to break down when it comes to that division. I've said for years that the 154-pound division has been my favorite division because no one stays undefeated there. So we're going to talk about that and discuss that and, go on from there. And, yeah, so I'll be here for a while. More people will join up. Again, apologize for the notification was wrong. I put the wrong time. But we're just gonna get right into it. So I want to start out with the Diego Pacheco fight last night. He stepped up and fought Sean McCallman. I wasn't familiar with him, but when I saw him, I did look him up and get a chance to see him. There is some content on him on YouTube. An undefeated fighter, doesn't have that many pro fights, but according to the commentary, he's been in there. He sparred with a lot of top dudes, and he's done well. And the one thing that I did notice was his reach advantage over Diego Pacheco. I mean, Pacheco is about 4 inches taller, but Sean McCallman had a much longer reach. Not much longer, but longer. And you can see it. You can see it as soon as the bell rung and the fight started. You can see the difference in his reach. You can see how long his arms were. And it was a fight that I think Diego needed to have. I think McCallman was winning the first, I think the first 3 or 4 rounds. He might have won at least 3 of those rounds, maybe 2 or 3 of those rounds against Pacheco. I think at some point Pacheco started to land some good shots, and Sean became a little bit more hittable. All right. But I think early on, I think it was Sean's speed was kind of shocking, or threw Pacheco off a little bit. His timing, his counterpunching was a little bit hard to deal with for Diego. And I think Diego needed a fight like that, because I think now he's getting pretty close to getting a bigger fight at some point. And I know he said he wants to fight. Who does he want to fight? He wants to fight the Jaime Munguias. He wants to fight Edgar Berlanga. He's over on the zone. So I mean, those fights are doable. They can happen. But I think it's still going to be some time before he gets those fights, because even though people are familiar with him, I think those other guys are looking for the bigger fights. We already know that Munguia is now fighting Canelo. We know that Edgar Berlanga is looking for a big fight as well. I think he's a little further in his career. So I think Diego Pacheco could get one of those fights, but I don't think it'll be right now. I think at some point, I think he's just going to have to be one of those guys. I don't look at him as being a guy that's going to be avoided yet. Like, I think he's good, but I think that's a guy that the fighters that are a little further in their career, they're not going to want to take that fight right now because they're looking for the bigger fight. And the bigger fight we all know is Canelo. But outside of Canelo, I think Pacheco, I can see Pacheco fighting a former top contender or maybe a former champion at some point. But I think the fight last night was a good fight. I think the only complaint is that Mackelman was holding a lot at times. But outside of that, I thought it was a good test. I definitely thought it was a good test for Diego. Most of the times I've seen him, he's been pretty dominant. So you kind of want to wait for a fight like that. We need a fight like that where he needs to be in tough with a good boxer, and he was in there with a guy that at times was outpointing him, you know what I mean? Very early in the fight, at least. But it was a good fight, and I really had no problems with it. I thought it was pretty solid outside of some of the holding. I thought it was a pretty good fight for Diego Pacheco, and I like the exchanges and stuff. I mean, he does. I mean, I wouldn't say he's there to get hit, but he does get hit, But he's a good fighter. He likes to exchange. He can do it all. He's saying he wants to fight anyone. We just gotta wait and see. We gotta wait and see. Everybody says that when they're on the come up and they're looking to get the big fights. I think the Edgar Berlanga fight is a little bit more. I think that's more. How should I say that? Realistic, I guess. But I don't see Edgar taking that fight. I'm thinking Edgar is going straight towards like a potential Canelo fight in the future. Because right now at this point, I think it really depends on what Canelo wants to do, and you never know. I think I called it maybe back in 2022 that I wouldn't be surprised if Canelo were to fight Edgar Berlanga, and not recently. It was like he was one of the options for Canelo. All right, but Pacheco, just keep doing what he's doing. I think he's good. I think he's legit. But I still think he has time. He still has time. He's 23 years old, and I think they're moving him in the right direction. I think that was a right fight, a good fight. David Morrell, I still see David Morrell being better, but I feel that way about everybody in the division. I think Benavidez, we don't even need to conclude him no more because he's going up to 175. His next opponent is at 175, so I'm not even including him no more. I'm done talking about David Benavidez, who was present, and his father is also the trainer of Diego Pacheco. So Benavidez is out. I'm done with talking about Benavidez in that 168. It's over. All the Canelo talk is over for me. I already expressed myself and how I felt about that. But yeah, I hope you guys that's coming in, let me know in the comments so you guys hear me loud and clear. I was having some mic issues right before I went live, so let me know if you guys hear me clear. Am I clear? So you guys let me know. Just do a quick sound check in the comments. Let me know if I'm wrong, if I'm good. All right. Um, all right, so let's talk about the main event last night. I think this is where what people are gonna mainly want me to speak on because it was a lot of controversy. A lot of people feel that Gustavo was robbed. You know what I mean? Sorry about that. Yeah, a lot of people feel that Gustavo Lemos was robbed. Okay. And it's mainly because of the 117-111 scorecard. Now, I did watch the fight last night. I did watch it, but I didn't score it. You know what I mean? It's like I was watching it, but it was like a couple rounds that I didn't see. To be honest, to be honest, I was a little annoyed early with the amount of holding that Richardson Hitchins was doing the first few rounds, and it was kind of annoying me. I am a big fan of Hitchins. I've been following him since before he even went pro. I was familiar with him. He's from Brooklyn. I'm definitely I'm supportive of my New York fighters. You know what I mean? So I was I was disappointed in the way the fight started. It was late. I'm into F1 now, so I was waiting for the Grand Prix, the Japan Grand Prix to start. So I was just when the fight started and I saw the way it was going in the first few rounds, I was already annoyed. So I turned from it after round 3. I turned back maybe around like 7 and watched the remainder of the fight. And that's when the fight started getting good. Now, I watched, I got up, I saw the scorecards and I saw the outrage on social media. And I was like, all right, in the morning, I'm gonna get up real early. I'm just gonna rewatch the fight. I don't want to watch it again, but I'm gonna rewatch the fight and I'm gonna score the fight, legit. Like, and I woke up this morning, I didn't even get out of my bed, and I turned the fight on and I had the volume off. And I watched the entire fight. And to be honest, I scored it similar to Chris Mannix, the way the unofficial scorecard was. I thought I had the fight as a draw by the 6th round, right? I gave it 3-3. All right. Gustavo came out fast. I gave him the first few rounds. Hitchens started to stand his ground and fight a little bit more. And I have to give him respect because he did at moments of the fight, he did stand his ground. And I feel like it's because he was forced to actually fight. It was not like the Jose Cepeda fight, where he was just outshining and people were looking for more, like myself. I was looking for more, like, yo, okay, you clearly are better. You're outboxing, you're winning every round. Cool. You even can hurt him. Like, you showed me like you can hurt him a bit. He played it too safe. Sometimes it is what it is. He's a really disciplined fighter. But in this fight here, Gustavo had that super aggressive style, some similarities there to like an Isak Cruz, was able to, even though he was shorter, he wasn't rangy. He was able to get close enough to time the right hand at times and even land combinations. And halfway through the fight, I had it as a draw. Now the fight goes, felt like Hitchens had his best round in the 7th up to that point. So, all right, Hitchens had a good round here. It's a clear round for him. Then we go into the 8th. And then Gustavo just bombed on him, right? Bombed on him like the first minute and a half, 2 minutes of the round. The Hitchens started fighting back. Best round of the fight, right? But I gave it to Gustavo. He just did more for me. You know what I mean? And then now we're going into the 10th. 10 rounds are done, and I'm back to it being a draw, right? So at this point, I have it 5-5. It's still a draw to me. And then we had the last 2 rounds, and I gave the last 2 to Gustavo. I had to. Hitchens just did not do enough. I know, he's on social media talking about it's all about hitting and getting hit and not getting hit, hitting and not getting hit. This is my problem. First of all, you was getting hit. let's make that clear. This wasn't one of those fights where you weren't getting hit. Up until this point, defense has been flawless, especially in that last fight he had. Flawless. But Hitchins got hit a lot. He even got hit with combinations at times. You know what I mean? He got hit clean in this fight. Some of the punches, yeah, that landed, they rolled or they grazed him by times, but he got hit in this fight. And those punches he got hit with were clearly more effective. Clearly. Yes, he was more accurate. Yes, he was. All right. He didn't, Gustavo was throwing more, he was missing more. Yeah, obviously, because Hitchins is a better defender. But a lot of the defense here was relied on his feet, moving, even running at times, and tying up. I think the tying up was a little bit extreme. Um, it just seemed like that lead hand wasn't up a lot. There was a lot of defensive flaws in this fight that I seen. Again, it's probably because of the style. I know Jose Cepeda was more accomplished, but stylistically, Jose Cepeda is still a boxer puncher. He's not an aggressive, rugged fighter. This guy, Gustavo, reminded me like Isaac Cruz. He reminded me of like Kiko Martinez, coming forward, getting low, pressing up on your chest, throwing wide hooks, and just being aggressive, and I think Hitchins just had a problem. Like some of these fighters, these good boxers, when they fight pressure fighters like this, sometimes it just becomes a problem, and Gustavo, not for nothing, there were periods in the fight where Gustavo was showing us that he's not just coming forward and his head is just dead center. No, he was moving his upper body a lot and getting around a lot of shots and even a jab, a great jab that Hitchins said he was getting around it, and he was getting underneath him and he was pressing him and throwing those big bombs over his jab. And he knew what he was doing. And I think Hitchins just had a lot of issues. He had a lot of issues. And it wasn't, to me, again, yes, he was more accurate, but Gustavo was more effective. The punches were harder. I just don't think that Hitchins did enough. I barely gave the fight. I scored a 115, 113 for Gustavo. I had a couple of swing rounds in there. So am I mad at the decision? No, I'm not mad at the decision, but I am pissed off about the 117, 111 scorecard. How do you score 117, 111? How do you watch that fight and just give the guy 3 rounds? I've been complaining about this 117, 111. There's always a judge. There's always a judge. 117, 111. How do you watch that fight and get 117, 111? This is when the robbery comes into play. Because at that point, it doesn't even look like it looks like you already had a job to do before the fight started. 117, 111, three rounds? No. I think Gustavo edged the fight. Again, 115, 113, either way or a draw is cool with me. I would have been cool with that. I still think it was a gift. I look at it as being a gift. This is a gift win, a super gift. This is a present. This is Christmas came early for Richardson Hitchins because, again, he's not the biggest fighter, but there are bigger fights that's set into place. You know what I mean? He is buzzing. He is looking to fight the winner of Sabril Matias against Liam Paro. All right. And I want to talk about that a little bit too. But again, at the end of the day, Hitchins just didn't do enough, and I'm a fan. I've never seen Gustavo Lemos fight before. I'm a fan of Hitchins. I've been following him for years before he went pro. Okay. Very familiar with him. All right. But he lost the fight, and even if they gave it to him 115, 113, or if it was a split or if it was a draw, I wouldn't have been complaining. But he did not do enough to win. To say that he won unanimously is a little wild to me. Now, and to have one judge score at 117, 111, giving Gustavo 3 rounds, I just don't agree with that. I don't agree with 117, 111. I think that's a little too far-fetched. And I just don't see, I just 3 rounds, it's that's terrible. 3 rounds, 117, 111. It's come on. Shout out to everyone that's coming in. What's up, Gary? What's up, National Acrobat? Jamin, what's up with you, man? Andrew said, respect way. What's up with you, man? National Acrobat said, if a fighter makes a move where the goal of that move is to clinch and not to punch, then that should be a foul. If this persists, it should be a 3 warnings, 5 final warning, then points deducted. Yeah, and this is my thing. I've always say I don't like, what I have a problem with? When someone lunges in the clinch. You're lunging into clinch. I've said this years ago when Klitschko fought Tyson Fury. Like, I get it when a guy is pressing up on you, you want to, and throwing combos. If it's too much, it gets too hot. Yeah, tie up. Or if you get hurt, tie up. But you are stepping in to clinch and then create a space and just trying to pop off and run. Like, and there's no real intent behind the punch. I know Hitchins is not a huge puncher. He's not a big puncher. But effective punching is a thing. And you're getting hit a lot. You're getting hit way more than we're used to seeing you doing. You know what I mean? And listen, I'm looking at this fairly. I'm looking at complete fair. I don't know this fighter. I'm just scoring the fight as I see it. And you are getting hit a lot here. And he is hitting you with harder shots. The jab was on point from Hitchins, but the power shots weren't really there. Not that much. There was certain periods of the fight it was. Again, I respect him for standing his ground at some point after the 3rd round and started to fight back. But that allowed him to get hit more. And even when he was moving and running at times, he was still getting hit. The timing on Gustavo was on point last night. It doesn't matter who I support at this point. It is what it is. Like, I'm watching the fight. We're all watching the fight. How do we get 117, 111? Zen says, all that talk from Richardson, disappointing to say the least. I mean, yeah, all that talk. You know what? But you know what? Fighters talk. And sometimes these fighters talk their way into a fight. You know what I mean? Did he back up what he's been saying all this time last night? No, not really. No, I don't think so. I think he underperformed. But you know what? I don't think it necessarily means that everyone beats him now. I still think he's difficult for a lot of fighters. But Subriel Matias might be the worst out for him right now. Because now we just seen you against a good pressure fighter. But someone that I don't look at and I don't view as as good as Subriel Matias. I think there's more to Matias's game when we're talking about pressure fighting or volume punching. Matias is smarter to me. I think Gustavo was good. I think Matias is better. And I think the way we can go from here is like, yo, you either going to rematch this guy or you're going to go straight to the winner of Matias and Paro. And I got Matias winning that fight. Paro's legit. Paro is, I think Paro's the guy that beat, Paro beat, what's this guy name? What's the guy that used to come to the ring with the dog all the time? The pretty boy with the spray in his hair and all that. Montana Love. Damn. I hope you don't watch this video because you're going to feel like I'm dissing him, but it is what it is. He had all that ink in his head. And I think the last time I was on live, we was watching that fight. What was the undercard for that? Let me look it up real quick. Oh, it was on the undercard of Prograis and Haney. Yeah, so I was live for that. And I remember I was talking about all that ink that was like dripping on his head. How you coming to a fight like that, bro? It's crazy. Yeah, but Richardson does a lot of talking, but that's what? That's the time we're in. You go on social media and you do all that talking, people gonna pay attention now. It's easy promo, it's free promo. Go on Twitter. Go on Twitter. Go on. I mean, it works. I mean, even works for content creators and even people that tweet or just boxing people that tweet. You got the fighters. You were talking about world champions, multiple divisions. Guys are making millions and they're replying and arguing with regular Twitter people. I mean, it works. So, of course, a fighter is going to go in there and talk trash. I mean, he talked, but he didn't really back it up. He didn't really perform. He had a bad performance, but it's part of the game. It's part of the game. Everybody's going to have a bad one. And it is what it is. He won the fight. Technically, he won the fight. I don't think he won, but I mean, it is what it is, man. I personally think that the right thing to do is to have a rematch, but I also think that this is preparation for your next fight if you are to fight Subriel Matias. I do think he can beat Liam Paro. I don't think he can beat Subriel Matias. I think it's a method to the madness of Subriel Matias. I mean, he is one of the best pressure fighters in the game right now. The way he does it, very methodical. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, he's going to let you burn off. He's coming forward and he's going to let you burn out in those first two. I was watching his last fight and he was fighting that puncher and he let his guy blow his load the first 2 or 3 rounds. And then once he starts, you can't stop him. He's good. I just want to, I think the only question I have with Matias right now is just, how long is that chin? I mean, I don't feel like he takes the most hits, but, as long as that chin holds up, he's solid, Yeah. Al knee. Yeah. Definitely. I agree. Yeah, I think it's a little extreme. I think the last fight he had, I was like, my man, like you got too much for a fight. You're about to sweat. Too much on your hair, man. All right. Yeah, I think from that fight, J-Man, I agree with you. I think Matias may stop Hitchins. That Hitchins is not going to be able to deal with Matias. Again, Matias is a different animal when it comes to that pressure, and I think again, there were periods where Gustavo slowed down a little bit. I think Matias, his gas tank is different. You know what I mean? He's gonna keep coming. You know what I mean? All right, but again, Hitchens, got the W. I'm just more disappointed in that 117, 111. What the hell was that? How do you get that? And that's where I really feel like, the people that are outraged, sometimes the outrage is not over warranted. And I think that sometimes the outrage is a little dramatic. You know what I mean? People like to be outraged about something every week when it comes to boxing. I get that, but 117, 111, like, come on, bro. Like, really? Like, that card was done before the fight started. All right. All right. So look, check it out. We gonna go through a bunch of topics, man. We're gonna talk about a lot, and there's a lot of upcoming fights. I want to give you my quick opinions on these fights, so we just gonna go through them, and then towards the end, I want to talk about this whole 154 thing because this thing is out of control right now. All the stuff with Tim Tszyu, Fedor, Spence, Crawford, Buhachuk, and all of these guys, right? It's just, you got Bakram, you got all these guys, and we don't know what's going on. No one can stay undefeated. Everybody's losing. It's the curse of 154. But we'll talk about that a little later. All right. Elney says Sabril got terrible footwork and his defense is not great. He relies on his chin. That will only get you so far. That said, Hitchins ain't going to be the one to test Sabril's chin. Yeah, I mean, listen, when you say terrible footwork, I don't know what you mean by that. Like, because I look at footwork as depending on your fighting style. I look at your footwork as in getting in a position to land the effective shots or getting yourself out of position or getting yourself out of danger. You know what I mean? And the timing that comes with that. You know what I mean? So when you say his footwork is terrible, I'm thinking like, okay, well, he doesn't know how to close a gap, or he doesn't know how to cut off the ring, or he's always putting him in positions to get hit. You know what I mean? And it hasn't been completely exposed. Again, like you said here in the comment, he relies on his chin. That could be a problem. And that's the only question, like I said earlier. I think that could be an issue, because if his chin doesn't hold up, it could be an issue, But again, I think a lot of the punches that do land early, I don't think he's getting the full. A lot of those shots are being parried. He does block pretty well with his gloves. I don't think he's getting hit with the majority of the harder shots from the punchers he's faced. You know what I mean? So, I don't know who exposes that. Again, is it going to be another puncher that he faces, or is it going to be someone that can outbox him, and avoid it and deal with his pressure for a good amount of rounds? That could be Devin Haney, or it could be a guy like Teofimo Lopez who can box well but punch hard too. I don't know who's that's going to be. I have no idea. We just got to wait and see. All right, but yeah, the chin is my biggest concern when it comes to him. You said he got David Benavidez footwork. Yeah, okay, I get you there. I think Benavidez. We talked about Benavidez on here a lot and his footwork, and I do think he's improving. I do think he's improving with every fight, especially this past year. I think those flaws. It's worked for him. But I also will say that it really depends on the opponent too. You know what I mean? Some guys can just expose certain flaws better than the next. It's all about the styles to me. All right, so let's move to the next group of topics, man. Before we do that, let's just go back because I know my last video. Now that I'm live and I can really talk more about it, I went to. You guys know many of you know, and if you didn't know, I was in the UK. Last weekend into earlier this week. I was out in London, and I went to the fight. I went to the Fabio Wardley fight with Frazier Clark. So I didn't really cover much boxing while I was out there because I know I did one video, and that was like my first reaction post-fight video of that card. I didn't do much content while I was there because the Wi-Fi in a place that I had was too slow. You know what I mean? I wanted to do more video. It took me forever to upload that one video that I did. Like I had to leave. I left the crib. I went out. I came back. It was still uploading. It was like one of those kind of Wi-Fi. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just wait until I get back home. And actually was supposed to go on a second trip. I had a trip booked I was going to come back for one day. And then I was supposed to be going out to what's it called? Belize. All right. I had it booked and everything. We had a weather issue. Flight got canceled. Couldn't rebook a flight. Last couple of days been spending just trying to get my money back. It was a disaster. Everything just got thrown away. Bad luck, shitty luck. All right. Andrew Tucker, what's up, brother? Appreciate you coming by, man. It's been a minute. Much love and respect. Wade came through to show some love. Thank you. Appreciate you, man. Hope everything is going well with you and the channel. You know, I'm very, very far behind, but I'm gonna be catching up today on all the topics today. But thank you for coming by and showing me some love, man. And you guys make sure you guys go check out my man Andrew Tucker. He has a boxing channel. He's been on here for a long time too. And check him out. You know, I love his energy, man. Very positive person too. All right, appreciate you for coming by. So let's go back to the UK. Went to this fight, man. Listen, yo, that fight made me really think about, because I've been to so many fights, and it really made me sit down and think about what was the best fight I seen live. Like, it made me go there, right? What was the best boxing experience? Now, I had so many good ones, and I can't figure it out. Like, because I've been to a lot of bigger cards. I've been to fights where there was a lot of undercards that were crazy. I had a lot of good fights that I've been to. And then, like, I can't remember them all, right? Because before, I used to go to smaller cards. Like, I've been to a few ESPN Friday night fights. Like, I've been to certain, cards that are just not major cards, right? Here in New York, mainly, or New Jersey. Like, I've been to Atlantic City and saw fights that used to be on NBC. Like, I've been to a lot of cards that just weren't that big fights, but the tickets were cheap. At one point I really couldn't afford, like, not saying I was broke or anything, but like I couldn't afford like the big tickets. So I would go to certain fights and the tickets would be like $60, decent seats. I've been upstate to Verona to fight. You see these cards and the tickets were like $80 and you're like on the floor. You know what I mean? Like, I've been to so many fights. So it made me go back and think of so many fights like I went to that were good because I wanted to compare. And then I realized as I'm doing this list, I'm trying to make a list, right? And I didn't finish it because I gave up because I was like, man, there's too many cards that I've been to and I can't remember them all, And so I basically had to go through my channel to see what fights I did a live review on. And that was the only way that I could remember what fights I went to. And then I went and looked at the pictures that I took at these fights. And I was like, damn, what about all the fights that I had pictures for before this phone that I have now that I don't have any pictures for? But it made me, that fight in the UK made me really think about like, damn, what was the best fight I ever seen live? And I can tell you off top, I would have to say there are best fights and there are some of the biggest moments. I think the biggest moment that I've ever seen live would have to be Anthony Joshua getting stopped by Andy Ruiz. I don't think anything compares to that because that is not what any of us was expecting. I still don't think that any live event that I've been to was bigger than that. Like, that fight, you can't top that, and it sucks because Joshua is my guy. Like, I hated that happened to him that day, but it was crazy because that fight was here in New York at Madison Square Garden, and the majority of the fans that were there were British fans. A lot of people was holding the flag, and they were all out even before going into the arena. They were all in the bars. They really flew out to support Anthony Joshua. And I'll never forget how silent the crowd was when Anthony Joshua got dropped and he was losing. It's like one thing when he knocked down Andy Ruiz, people were fired up. But when he got knocked down, everybody was like, oh shit, he's really hurt for real. I don't think anything can match that. Another moment and this is old, right? This is one of the first fights that I think I took my dad to. This might be the first one. When Luis Collazo knocked out Victor Ortiz. I think that fight there was special because that was the first fight. I think that was the first bigger fight that, like, I got great tickets. Like, I was like literally like ringside, and I took my dad to that fight. And I think that was like when I first started the channel. And then I did not expect Collazo to win. And I think Collazo knocking him out was crazy. So I think that was another big moment. I put down Provodnikov against Algieri. That was a crazy fight. That was a crazy fight. Algieri getting knocked down. Eye was all black, it was swollen. Provodnikov was destroying him in the earlier rounds, and Algieri was able to come back out boxing. That was another crazy fight. I went to Golovkin Lemieux card. I went to Thurman Garcia card, Porter Berto, Dominic Wade against Triple G. I flew out to LA for that. Deontay Wilder against Luis Ortiz won. One of the best fights I've seen live. One of them. You know, crazy. And I thought, you know, I know the Wilder fans came here killing me because I predicted Ortiz to win that fight. I thought Ortiz was going to win. I thought it was a bad matchup, a stylistic matchup for Wilder, but Wilder pulled it off. Best win in my opinion on his resume. I went to Lara Trout. What was on that card? I think a few fights was on that card. I think Darrell. I think Porter against. Oh damn! There's so many fights on that card. I went to Crawford against Hank Lundy. I went to Imam against Ramirez. I went to Charlo against the Charlo twins against Harrison and with those two fights. Remember when Charlo lost to Tony Harrison, and then Big Charlo almost lost to what's the Russian fighter name? Matt Korobov. That card was crazy. That card was crazy. That was the card that everybody in the arena was like, yo, Jamel had already lost to Tony Harrison officially. And then when Jamal was fighting Korobov, I remember, yo, being in the crowd, like everybody was like, yo, I don't know, man. I think Jamal might have lost too. That's how it felt in the arena, like in the arena. And I could tell you, going to fights live is like you're getting the experience and seeing everything close. Like you can see the punches easier sometimes, but from certain angles, you might not see shit. You know what I mean? And that's why sometimes it's kind of hard. Sometimes I'll go and I had to come back and watch Wardley against Frazier Clark because there were certain points in the fights, like depending on what side, and I was close, but there were certain points in a fight where they'll be on the other end, you know, and if you're sitting near a corner, which I was, it's going to be hard to see certain punches, especially when your back is to the fighter and they're not side by side. You know what I mean? So that was a fight I actually came back. And I think the draw was the right thing. You know, I think the draw was cool, you know, watching it live and the thing. But going to the fights live is a different energy, you know. You're enjoying it, and you're getting to see everything. You're seeing the sweat fly out going into the crowd. Sometimes, you know, I saw Matisse Provodnikov. I saw Charlo Hogan. I went to that card. I went to Teofimo Martin recently. That was like the last December, you know, not the recent one, but the one before that. I saw Jalalov when he fought upstate. I saw Beterbiev versus Smith was crazy. I went to Shakur Yoshino last year. I even went back. I went to Zab Judah against Danny Garcia. Like I went to so many fights, but those are the ones that I can only find photos for. And it's a lot. That doesn't include all the other fights that I went to that I can't find photos, or maybe I couldn't find content that I did on it. So I've been to a lot of fights live, and I have to say that Frazier Clark against Fabio Wardley had to be a top 5 fight for me live. It had to be. The energy in the room in the UK, they are different. They are different. They are yelling, they are screaming, they are drunk. You know, they don't hide their feelings towards a fighter, their biases. When they support a fighter, they are screaming in your ear. It was a great, 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 great. Just like last year, Yard and Better BF was the same thing, but this was like even bigger, at least in the arena. Maybe because it was an O2, but it was dope. It was definitely one of the best live experience. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's definitely one of the best live experience that I had, and I'm lucky to experience that because when I left the arena and I was just talking to random people that was sitting behind me or sitting around me, and when I was just going, I went on social media and I saw everybody's reaction. I saw some content creators make reaction videos to it, and I said to myself, a lot of the British fans are saying that it was a classic British fight, a classic heavyweight British fight. And for me to be there and experience that and say that I was there and I'm from New York is pretty dope. You know what I mean? Because I've been to Vegas to see fights. Like I've been to, I've been, you know, I've been different parts of America to see fights. But to say that I just happened to be in the UK for a fight that ended up being a classic British fight. Very lucky, you know. And even one of the best fights last year between Yard and Better BF. I actually just went and it happened to it just worked out to being a good fight. You know, even though Yard still got beaten down, it was still it was probably the best fight that Better BF had as far as action. You know what I mean? Um, Shout out to everyone that's here. I am reading your comments as I'm talking. Elney says, damn, that's like seeing Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson live. That's the story. Yeah, that's probably back to when I was talking about Joshua Ruiz. Crazy. I just happened to be there, you know what I mean? And I had great seats. I was right in front. National Acrobat says, I don't go to arenas to watch boxing, but the best fight I saw live on TV was Gotti and Ward 1. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe like sometime last year, I think I went through all 3 fights, you know, one day. We watched all 3 just randomly. Elney says Korobov should have got that one. Yeah, I mean, it was a close fight, you know. Beth says, I'm planning on going to a boxing card in June. Would be my 3rd time in a boxing show. The vibe is crazy. Definitely, you know. At least I go to some fights live, but I always nosebleed seats. Seeing them on TV is better, but the atmosphere is better in person. Yeah. I don't go unless I can get great tickets. You know, I like, you know, I go. You guys know I go, but I don't go anymore unless I can get phenomenal seats. You know, if they got to be great. You know. National said, I only ever went to one fight and didn't like it. Ropes obscure your view. Camera on the ring, apron block your view. You're really disappointed and won't do it again. Yeah, that could be a problem. I think the best way to go is to try to find seats that's as close to the side of the ring as possible, like the long part of the ring. You know what I mean? The long, not try to stay as far away from the corner because the cameraman is likely there. Your view is being skewed already because of the corner pole. Yeah, don't go unless you get great seats. If you could find great seats, like when a fight starts, and you could find some good seats right when the fight is announced, you know, or there are some great seats left, maybe the week of the fight. Do it. You know. All right, so yeah, the fight, Clark and Wardley. I don't know if I said this when I made the video early this week, but I think they should run it back. You know, I rarely say, you know, immediate must rematch. That is a must rematch to me. I think when I watched it in the building, I thought I actually scored it a draw technically because I think I gave Clark 7 rounds to 5, but Fabio scored a knockdown and there was a point taken. So I thought it was a draw leaving the building. And to be honest, I rewatching it, I rewatched it a few days ago. I personally just think they should just run it back, man. You know, it was just too good of a fight. Frazier uh was more consistent to me. Um, he was the better boxer to me. His feints, his jab was better. He's just more consistent. But I thought Fabio landed the bigger punches. He had the bigger moments, man. He was getting them better in the exchanges. When it became a dog fight, he was better, but Frazier held his own too in those moments too. Um, he finished the fight very gassed, but he was very tired. Fabio, his nose was broken, his face was a mess. I'm sure that had a lot to do with his stamina as well. Um, it was a classic, man. It was a phenomenal. What do they call it? They call it a British. It was a classic British dust up. I think that's what people say. A British dust up. My boy. Shout out to my boy Paul. He's out there. Uh, yeah, I got y'all old slang to everything out there. I'm learning. And overall, I have a good shot. I have a good time. Domestic dust up. Okay, my bad. Domestic dust up. Yeah, I have your own slang. And I like it out there. Like I told you guys, I stayed in the Shoreditch area. I've been there before, but I never stayed there before. I think the first time I went to London, I stayed in Fitzroy area. The second time I stayed, I was like right by the Tower Bridge area. Okay. On the northern side of the bridge. And then this time I was upper, you know, the Liverpool Street in the northern part of Liverpool Street. And I was going out, and I think the only complaint I have about the nightlife there, like the nightlife is great, right? No complaints. I think the problem I have with out there is that the legal drinking age there is 18 and up, unlike here is 21. So you just see nothing but zombies at some point just walking around throwing up all over the place. Like, yeah, like everybody's drunk, throwing up. Everybody's younger. You can go anywhere and there's nothing but like younger people mixed. And I went to a lot of different spots, and even I left the area too. Like I went to Camden Town. I went to a couple spots out there. I've been around. Like every trip I take out there, I go to different areas. I think the first time I did all of the tourist attraction stuff that I went, but the last couple times I've been, I go to different areas and hang out in different spots and stuff. So, pretty dope. Subprime politics was good. Uh, was Oh yeah, Nashville. I see a comment. Yeah. It could be like that. The three lines is annoying. The three ropes on across for watch a live fight. Yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, but yeah, I love London. I love London. I love the UK. And shout out to the supporters that's out there. I always run into people that recognize me. When I'm out there, it's pretty dope. All right. All right. So look, let's move on. Let's move on. I have a ton of topics to bring up. Let's go right into it, man. Um Vergil Ortiz Jr. is coming back. He's returning to fight Tomas Delorme, and Jose Ramirez is going to be facing Rancis Barthelemy on the card of that. What do I think about it? Well, it's clear to me that Golden Boy is being very careful with Vergil Ortiz Jr. I mean, Tomas Delorme, once upon a time he was a top contender. A lot of people have fought him. He's lost a lot of good fighters. He's picked up some good wins. But it's clear to me that they're just making sure at this point, like, because this is not what I viewed to be a competitive fight. And Vergil Ortiz has already beaten guys on this level and better. But I think that it's clear to me that they want to make sure he's good. I think they're going to put him in a few fights before they test him heavy. 154 is highly, highly competitive right now. And I think they had to take a few steps back because at one point, Vergil Ortiz was talked about as far as being in there. I mean, he was supposed to fight Stan Jonas, but the health issues ruined that. But at one point, it was even people talking about Crawford ducking this guy. You know what I mean? Terrence Crawford, Jerron Boots Ennis was a big fight that I was definitely pushing on the channel. But now he's fighting Tomas Delorme at 154. And I don't even think Vergil Ortiz really belongs at 154. But I think that's where he has to be. Unless strained on his body and trying to cut down and make a weight is probably going to be the best for his health. And I think this is what's happening and this is what's going on. You know what I mean? It's okay card. It's I look at it as another tune-up. Better tune-up than the last guy, though. The guy really had nothing for him. I don't even remember his name, but I saw that fight. And that guy had nothing for him, and I think, Ortiz looked like he was a little rusty, and he still got rid of the guy pretty quickly. As far as Jose Ramirez against Francis Barthélemy, I don't know. I just don't think that Jose Ramirez, I think, like, unfortunately, and I hate to say this because I don't like to put losses on guys. And again, people take losses at the end of the day, and that's cool. But it seems like that class of fighters, Prograis, Taylor, Ramirez, those champs that we had, it just seemed like it just hasn't been good the last couple years for them. Like all of those guys. And I think part of the reason is I think some of those guys stayed at 140 a little too long, especially Josh Taylor. Excuse me. And I think, like, this fight, like, I seen a tweet say, like, Jose Ramirez against Francis Barthélemy, it's like so 2016. You know what I mean? It's like, damn, Francis Barthélemy, man, like Jose Ramirez now is like, that would have been a good fight a long time ago, but getting it now, I guess the winner of this is setting themselves up to fight either a prospect on a come up or like it could be a tune up for one of the champs. I really don't know. I really don't know. I feel bad because these guys were at the top not that long ago, but it seemed like they take their losses. It just, like, Jose Ramirez, like, what has he really been doing since he lost to Taylor? And same with Taylor, like all this mess coming up, and he can't get this fights, injuries, and Regis Prograis now, like, at one point he was one of the most dangerous guys to me, and now, like, these guys like a toying with him in the ring. Like, I would have never thought that Devin Haney, and I'm a big supporter of Devin Haney, but I would have never thought that Devin Haney could just toy with Regis Prograis like the way that he did. I would have never thought that Teofimo Lopez could just toy with Josh Taylor the way that he did. You know what I mean? It's just like, damn. It, like, look at Zepeda and Dalton Smith, which I wanted to talk about here a little bit. Zepeda and Dalton Smith, like, this guy, Zepeda, just got brushed off like he wasn't a problem. It's like, damn, these guys went past their prime so quickly, and it sucks. It's part of the sport, but man, life happens fast. Like, you're at top, and then you're like, right away, you're not there no more. In fact, now the newer guys, the newer crop of champions and contenders are just dusting these fighters off from the last gen, the last class. You know what I mean? So I mean, look, this card is, it's okay. Ramirez and Barthélemy is not a bad fight. This is kind of like a fight between a couple of the guys from the last class that were top tier. You know, Ramirez was definitely top tier. Bartholomew was a top contender. Is what it is. Vergil Ortiz, I guess they move him carefully until he's all the way on point. And I'm assuming after he wins this, because I believe he's gonna win this. If he wins this, I still think there's gonna be another carefully matched fight for him in his next fight before they put him in there with the big boys at 154. You know. But yeah, going back to Dalton Smith, I brought him up and him dusting off Jose Zepeda, which means a lot, you know, because Zepeda, you know, he had recently lost to Hitchins, which I was talking about earlier. But Dalton Smith did it in a fashion where he dominated, you know, outside of the first round. I mean, he gave Zepeda the first round, but after that, Dalton Smith just made him look like child's play. You know, everybody's talking about this Adam Azim fight, right? Adam Azim, who was the British super lightweight 140 champion, the European champion. I'm sorry, not British, but the European champion. I guess Dalton Smith was up to as a man though to take that fight, and Azim vacated the title. You know, I guess he doesn't want that fight. And, you know, Azim is getting attacked. And I've seen Azim fight. He's a good fighter. He's getting freaking destroyed this week. You know, I know you British fans know all about it. He's getting destroyed on social media because of this. And, you know what's weird? You know, I actually think that is a good, that's a good fight. Like, I know Dalton Smith won and looked great against Zepeda. But I think Adam Azim would have beaten Zepeda too that night. You know what I mean? And of course, you got to do it. You know, we all say after the fact. I know Adam Azim is taking Harlem Eubank, and I was watching this interview with Ben Shalom, and I think they was talking about how, Harlem Eubank and the name and stuff with Harlem, he's a Eubank and stuff like that. And look, man, the way I look at it is like this. Two things. All right, cool. Take your fight with Harlem Eubank. You think that's a big fight because it's a Eubank? Cool. Take that fight. But no one's in a way. That should be the domestic dust-up fight. That should happen. That should go down. There's no excuses. That fight between Azim and Dalton Smith should happen. Fight Eubank, and if you could get Drew Eubank, you and Dalton Smith should fight. There should be no excuses. You are those guys, top guys coming up at 140, undefeated. You know, that's the fight you should take before you go into the super world level of guys where there's a million fighters at 140. Take that fight. Get your buzz from being Eubank. If you are to win that fight and look impressive doing it, you and Dalton Smith should fight each other. And I am not completely sold on Dalton Smith winning that fight. I know he's coming off that win, that really notable win against a former title contender. I get that, but I'm not completely 100% sure like he blows Adam Azim away. Like Azim is still good to me. And that's a fight that I think that should go down. I know, again, I think it's messed up because it's a clear duck to me, but at the same time, it's not a fight that I'm like overlooking Azim, even though he's not taking a fight. Like, it's still a good fight to me. I can't wait to see it or hopefully it happens. What's up, FC? He says, High Wave, the upset Divino Espinoza, given all the against Rabosi Ramirez, given all the background circumstance around, was to me the best boxing moment I've ever experienced. Yeah, that was a good fight, man. That was a top 2 fight for me in my list last year. Top 2 fight. All right. Oh, it was a phenomenal fight. Damn, what was the other fight that I thought it was that and Ishaki Foster against Rocky Hernandez. I think that was the other fight too. It was between those two. But yeah, that was a great fight, bro. Lucky for you to go see that one live. Jose says, so sad, man. Travels all those miles to get a dream stolen. Hitchins uh POS ref, POS judge, POS. Yeah. And I think the ref, again, the outcome of fights can, the referee can affect the outcome of the fight. Sometimes the referee can be overly too involved. I've seen it so many times, too involved, jumping in on every break quickly. I've seen it in fights so many times. But when a guy is holding that much and you don't give any harsh warnings, he's going to continue to do it. If a guy is hitting kind of low and you don't give any harsh warnings, they're going to keep doing it. There's certain things that a fighter can keep doing, or you can shut it down quickly. Well, this is a warning. All right, you do it again. All right, this is a hard warning. Next time I'm taking a point. That's the way I think it should go every time, unless it's something brutal. Like it's a bad low blow or something. Like something brutal. You do the shoulder bump or do a headbutt, you lunge it in with your head. Those are the ones where you say like either one warning. But it's something like the holding, like, yo, it's your warning. Stop holding. All right, it's your second warning. Stop holding. Harsh warning. Hard warning. Stop holding. Third time, like, all right, I'm gonna take a point. FC said, I have seen Massa as a devoted fan for decades and have not seen anything like the knowing all the history behind the scenes made it a movie script. Amazing moment. Yep. National Acrobat says, I love Cepeda for shutting Jose Wild's big god. Listen, we were watching that. Who was I with? I was talking to somebody from New York. Somebody, a friend of mine. He's Puerto Rican. He's Dominican. He's Dominican. He's my boy. And we was talking about, I don't know what made us talk about that. He was talking shit about about Boricua fighters, which is Puerto Rican fighters, right? Because he's Dominican. So we just happened to be talking about that. This is probably like a few weeks ago. And we were talking about this fight. And he's like, see, this is what they do. The Boricua fight. And he's Dominican. So he's saying this. The Boricua fighters, they all like that. And yeah, that moment was crazy, man. I mean, that dude had his brother on TV. I think the funniest part outside of the knockout was the fact that, and like Josue, I don't have no problems with him, but I hate the way he was acting before the fight. Like, why are you acting like that, bro? Calm down. He's being very disrespectful. And that's a sign of weakness and insecurities and lack of confidence when you're trying to be a bully. You're forcing it now. You fighting a guy that's chilling. He's not even talking. He's not even that. He's a very respectful. I'm talking about Jose Cepeda. He's a very respectful fighter. And you're going out your way to be disrespectful. And then you get humbled the way you did. And then you got your brother on TV, on national TV, crying like you died. I said this then. He was like, you was crying like he got hit by a car or something crazy happened. You know what I mean? It was crazy. It was crazy. And they had him on national TV. That's pretty embarrassing. Mark says it's a good fight. I think Azim have a good chance of winning. I blame Shabalam and Sky for not happening. Yeah, I do too. Brutal low pros such as Roberto Duran against Ken Buchanan to steal his title. Rosewood says, Wade, what do you think about Fury? Should focus on the upcoming fight with Usyk. Will it be midsection, boxing from distance, or manhandling? I don't think it's going to be manhandling. All right, I don't think that. I've always said for years now, since Usyk has made his name as a heavyweight, that Fury, if they were to fight, I think Fury would have to go back to his old ways, get a little lighter, focus more on reflexes, defense, being rangy, moving. I think the heavy version of Fury that we seen against Wilder, against Chisora, or against Dillian White, that's not going to be the one that beats Usyk. You know, just thought that worked for those fighters. You know, it didn't work for instance, and Donald. Yes, he got the win technically, but it's just too hittable. He's been too hittable since the rematch with Wilder. You know what I mean? And it worked in those fights. It made him a lot more durable. And I get it. He was able to bully the smaller fighters, but an Usyk fight, he needs to be back. And look, let me say this. The best version of Tyson Fury, you guys heard me say this before, is the Fury that fought Vladimir Klitschko. I think that version of Tyson Fury was unbeatable as far as the current generation. Now, I know, you guys know I'm a huge Anthony Joshua fan. I'm talking about all of these guys in their prime, including Usyk, including Joshua. He's already beaten Wilder. I think that version of Tyson Fury was the most difficult to deal with. You couldn't really get to him. And between those 2-3 years of inactivity and gaining all that weight, when he came back, still good, but not quite the Fury that he was in that Klitschko fight. I think that Klitschko fight was the very best version of him. And that Fury is long gone, but I think he needs to be close to that in order to beat Usyk. I don't think he needs to be the heavy Fury. Yes, I think he should focus on the mid-session, definitely. Joshua started it a lot more in the rematch with Usyk, just didn't get the win, but you saw that he was focusing on it. And Daniel Dubois, that was that was the whole game plan. The midsection, right? It was just a little too low. So I think that is part of it. Distance and the midsection is where Fury should go in this fight. LD says, yo, let's get one thing straight. Tell your Dominican friend there's a difference between New Yorkers and real Puerto Ricans. That's a fact. I know. I'm just, I know. New Yorkers is different than Puerto Ricans, real Puerto Ricans. I feel you. I know that. Yeah, we all know that, but yeah. Josue is definitely a New York Rican. Yeah, he is. I know what you mean, bro. I've heard it a million times. All right. Will says, unless Fury turns back the clock, he's done. National says, a fun fact, Usyk versus Fury will not happen because Fury will pull out again. Mental health issues is an excuse he'll use to avoid a $10 million fine. Yeah, I'm worried about that too. And I'm also still worried about Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. There's still a part of me that I'm unsure if this fight really is gonna happen. I can't, I don't believe it until they're in the ring, but I am gonna do a breakdown on it probably this week because the fight's coming out really soon. All right. All right, so let's go back to more topics. All right, so we got some good fights coming up, some decent fights coming up. Now, we know, speaking of that fight, the undercard, there's a ton of fights on that undercard, but one specific one stood out to me was Azim Kabayel against Frank Sanchez. Huge fan of this fight. All right. Huge fan of this fight right now. I don't think this is the fight that I've been saying. This is one of the fights I've been saying that I've been waiting for a guy like Frank Sanchez to get involved in. I've been waiting for Frank Sanchez to all right, let's step to someone. Azim Kabayel has a win over Derek Chisora. It's a while ago. But that was the only win. But that big knockout win against Arslanbek, that sold me. That guy is still undefeated. He knocked out Arslanbek, a guy that I never thought was really that good anyway, but he knocked out Arslanbek, right? And Frank Sanchez is a guy too that's always been pretty good, just waiting for him to get his big fight. I think he's a big, difficult opponent for a lot of fighters. I think his style is good. The only thing I always complain about Frank Sanchez is that his defense is poor when he's putting pressure and he's trying to get stoppage. I think when he is being more defensive, fight on the back foot, I think he is a far better fighter. But he's boring when he does that. But I think when he's trying to get the knockouts, trying to force a knockout, he often gets hit with big shots coming in. I don't think he's good at applying pressure. I think he leaves himself open to get countered with a lot of shots coming in. And I think that's my only issue with him. But this is a great fight. I can't wait to see it. All right. And yeah, that's the way I look at it. I think this is a good fight. Also, Shakur Stevenson is going to be fighting Artem Harutyayan. All right. Hopefully I didn't butcher his name. Look, I don't really care for this fight, to be honest. I don't know what options that Shakur has out there because it seems like no one really wants to fight him, and or they're like the moment it feels like he was being ducked. Now certain fighters want to fight him. I know like William Zepeda wants to fight him now, but I know last year he didn't, or Oscar did not want him to fight him. Look, Artem is good. He had a good fight with Frank Martin last year. Very close fight. He was definitely winning earlier, and then Frank Martin outworked him in the second half, even knocked him down and late in the fight to edge a decision. It's not a bad fight, but I don't see it as being a better matchup than Yoshino. You know what I mean? I think I look at it the same way. Artem is good, respectful. Is the Yoshino fight is it's like on that level though. You know what I mean? It's like it's not great, it's just okay, and Shakur's catching a lot of heat, man. He's been catching a lot of heat since his last fight. Obviously he didn't really perform that well. Okay. Because he's saying that he had a hand injury, so he wasn't using one of his hands. I mean, he really wasn't using one of his hands, but he didn't want to call it the fight. All that stuff. Look, as much as I hate when fights get this rescheduled, I personally I looked at that fight as being Shakur's toughest challenge going into the fight. So if you're going to go into a fight, which a lot of diehards feel like might be your toughest fight, don't go in there injured, like where you can't injured to a point where you can't use one hand. You know what I mean? Because luckily for him, Edwin too underperformed because he didn't push the pace that well. You both sucked that night. And nobody wants to hear your excuses. If you knew he was injured, reschedule the fight. I hate when fights get rescheduled, but you know what? Reschedule the fight, bro. I'd rather you reschedule and pull out a fight because of injury than just fight and give us that. That was no. So people are going to criticize you. And now people are going to even criticize you more because now you're fighting someone that no one cares to see you fight. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that that's his fault. I'm sure he's willing to fight all of these guys. But Artem is a good fighter. It's not a bad fight. I don't think it's an upgrade from what we've seen from him. But it's not a bad fight neither. Yeah, I did fight DJ Rush. I did speak on this in a very early part of this live. I think Lemos won. I think he edged it. I scored it 115, 113 for Lemos. I don't know where we got a 117, 111. That part was bad. That made it a robbery because of that scorecard. Yeah. I thought it was close. Yeah, I had a couple swing rounds. 115, 113, either way, draw, either way, would have been cool. But 117, 111, 3 rounds to Lemos. Come on, man. Nah. Khan Enigma, what's up, man? All right. So Shakur supposed to be his next fight. Okay opponent. Artem is legit. But again, we seen what Shakur can do to fighters on this level already many times before. Again, it's not a bad fight. I'm excited to see him in the ring. He is one of my favorite fighters to watch. But I also have to be honest. This is just what we've been getting. You know what I mean? So that's the way I look at it. What's up, Focus? Thank you. What a fight that I am excited for and I think this fight is time for this fight is Juan Francisco Estrada against Jesse Rodriguez. I'm very happy that this fight is happening. Jesse's going to move back up to super flyweight, and he's going to fight for Estrada's WBC title. All right. And listen, let me pull up the resume. Listen, Estrada hasn't fought in a while, and this is why I have to look up here. Estrada has not fought in a while. Let me actually look up when the last time he fought. He hasn't fought since December again in 2022, when he fought Chocolatito for a third time. So he has not been in the ring since. When's the last time Chocolatito been in the ring? He might have not been in the ring for a while neither. But he has not fought in a long time. It's been a long time, man. And I think that is, with the experience he has, I think that is an advantage for Jesse because he's always been busy. Jesse fought 2 times last year. He fought 3 times in 2022. And he's been fighting good fighters, man. He's very active. He's young. Obviously, he has a youth event. Obviously, Estrada has the resume and just the experience. But I think it's time, and I said this, when he beat Quadras, and I'm talking about Bam, when he beat Quadras and he beat Sorong Visai, at that time, I felt like, okay, I'm ready for Bam to go straight at the other top guys like Yoka or Chocolatito or even Estrada. It said he decided to take a step back. All right, he went for Israel Gonzalez, went back down for Christian Hernandez, and then he just came off one of his best wins against Sonny Edwards, undefeated, dominated. Edwards stopped him. All right, went back down, won a unification, and is now was that a unification? I think it was. Yeah, it was. And then now he's going back up. And I think it's time. I think the time is perfect. I think the time is right. These guys are on their way out. Estrada's been around for a while. Chocolatito, Yoka, all these guys are still active somewhat. But, 115, it's time to take over. Like, you didn't become undisputed at 112, but you proved that you were the best. Something left at 112. Go to 115. Get these guys, get these legends in. Get these future Hall of Famers in. Get them. Go straight to them. I think this is the time. This is his year. This is a very dangerous fight. I think this is an even tougher fight than Sonny. I think Sonny, from what I remember from that fight, I think what Sonny, I was leaning towards Bam to win, but I think Sonny fought the wrong fight. I can't remember exactly what he was doing wrong, but what he was doing wrong in the fight is like what was not working for him. He just kept at it, and I think a guy like Estrada, he's not going to make those mistakes. He's capable of making adjustments. He can exchange, he can battle, he has power. This is a good matchup. I can't wait for this fight. This is one of the best fights that could be made in boxing right now. DJ Rush, he said, how often do you think boxers should fight a year unless they are old or injured? Well, I think fighters should fight 3 times a year at least. If not, I know the superstars or big names they're probably going to get 2. But listen, being active helps you. If you are healthy, being active helps. Being inactive is a cause of a lot of losses. You know what I mean? And Estrada is being inactive here, and I think Bam is a good moment to fight Estrada. If let's just say 2 years ago, when we first started talking about the fight, if Bam didn't have the experience 2 years ago, he does now. And the timing is better now. Like, if you didn't think they were equal before, I think they're equal now. You know what I mean? If you didn't care for the Sorong fight because he wasn't really active, or if you didn't care for the Carlos Quadras win, I think now it should be coming off the Sonny Edwards win. I think now is the time. LD says, damn, you said you want to see Bam versus Yoka. I really hope you meant Chaco. Don't do that to my girl, Yokosta. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm just saying I want him to fight the top guys at 115, period. All of them. And I'm kind of mad still that Yoka didn't, and we never got the unification with the other big names over there like Estrada and Chocolatito. But, I want to see those fights, if they're going to stick around. Bam is his time in those lower weights. I think he could be a star. I think he could become an undisputed champion and continue being a multi-divisional champion, earn more titles, move up to 118 eventually. But do your thing at 115 because those are kings down there at it's like L Dub said, yeah. All right. I'm gonna speak on Tim Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora later in the video because I'm gonna talk about 154. In fact, I'm gonna talk about that shortly. All right, but yeah, great fight. Let's move on to the next topic. Let's see here. So I just want to give you Benavidez, Alexander Gvosdyk. I haven't talked about it. I think a lot of times I talk about Benavidez has been about Canelo. I actually think this is a good fight, and I think this is a good test for your first fight at 175. Gvosdyk is older. I know he was gone for a little while, but he did come back. He did pick up a few wins. I don't know if he's still in his prime, but I only know that he's lost to only one person, and he's lost to one of the best fighters in the world, and Artem Beterbiev, so he did take some time off. He did retire for a few years, but for Benavidez to go up and take this first fight at 175, I like the fight. All right. I wasn't a fan of how he looked last night. I don't know if he was drunk. I don't know if he was high. I don't know if he was both. But he was in the in the arena last night at that Hitchins fight, and they interviewed him, and he was slurring all over the place. But then he also had like a big, he had like eye. He had like some kind of little mark on his eye, probably from sparring. So I don't know. But I like this fight. I haven't spoken on it, but if these guys are really fighting at 175, and if it's going to be rumored to be on the undercard of Tank against Martin, I like the fight. I think it's a good fight. I'm very supportive of this fight as a first fight at 175. Good test. All right. Because this is a good boxer here, and I actually think I rate Gvosdyk a little bit higher than Andrade and what's this guy's name? Who's the other fighter that he beat last year outside of Andrade? I can't think of his name right now. Oh, Caleb Plant. Yeah. All right, good fight. Joseph Parker. I saw this call out he did with Dillian White. I don't know if you guys seen it. Look it up if you haven't. It's worth watching. Look it up. Joseph Parker has reinvented himself. I don't know. I mean, who's having a better year in boxing than Joseph Parker right now? What is it? I don't know. It could be timing. It could really just be hard work, being active. Andy Lee, whatever it is. I put this down on my list because he made one of the funniest, if not the funniest, call out videos I've ever seen. He's reinvented and he's having a great time. Him, Anthony Joshua as well. They're having a good time, but Joseph Parker is really working himself to getting another super fight. Like he's probably possibly with Anthony Joshua or whoever. He's having a good time. He's coming off 2 great wins. And, I broke this down before. If you look at his resume, he has one of the best resumes of all of this generation. Only second to maybe Anthony Joshua. I mean, Jesus, man, like what a way to turn around your career. You know, at one point he was starting to look like a journeyman at the very bottom, and now he's back to the very top. You know, again, a lot of that might have to do with timing, but you know what? He's working it right. He's doing it right, and he's promoting himself, and he's becoming a celebrity. You know, he's a celebrity. Like, I like it. I think it's good. I like him, man. Again, I've been covering this fight since the beginning here. You know, I remember I was the only American channel that was really doing content on his fights at one point. So I'm happy for him. Anthony Joshua is saying 2 years. He's giving himself 2 years. I don't know. You know, I don't like when fighters give themselves a time, because it's like, dude, you don't know what opportunities are going to be available. Like, who knew that the Saudis was going to just take over the sport and start handing out crazy $1 million checks, you know, $100 million checks? We didn't know this was going to happen. How do you know what opportunity was going to be there for you? You know, I get it. You have a plan, you have a goal. You get into a certain age and you will say, okay, I want to walk away from sport in 2 years. I made my money. I get that. But how do you know? You know, what do you know is going to be available for you in 2 years? You know what I mean? How do you know if you're winning and you're looking phenomenal, man, and you're getting these big wins? Like, let's say you do end up fighting Tyson Fury at some point, or maybe you might get Usyk a third time, or maybe you do fight the rematch with Joseph Parker. You know, you don't know. You know, so when I saw that, I was like, all right, it's good to have a goal, but again, we don't know what these fighters are going to be doing, because we all plan to do certain stuff by a certain age, and sometimes it goes that way, sometimes it doesn't, you know. But Joshua is looking again, you know, he's looking like he's back, not back, but it seems like, and I said this before, I see the experience, but I'm seeing the killer instinct. And I think for a while the killer instinct kind of just fell off. We know he has the skills. We know he's improved, but now I'm seeing the skills mixed with the hunger to destroy his opponents. I like that. I miss seeing that. I always bring up Charles Martin, Dominic Brazil, Dillian White in the first fight. I miss that AJ where he wanted to beat the hell out of you, not like just be cool and just be this boxer. He wanted to destroy you, you know, and I've been missing that for a long time. So I like where he's at right now. I love where Joseph Parker is at right now too. I like that these guys are coming back around. And not for nothing, if Wilder is to fight Young, if they really fight, I hope Wilder can get back on it too. Because you never know. If he beats Young, right? Or if he stops him, you never know. You know, fights still could be on the table. You know, a heavyweight, you can never sleep on heavyweight. Heavyweights are the hardest fights to call because one punch could change everything, you know? And you just never know. Hopefully Wilder can find a good space for him to pick up some good wins, you know, and it needs to happen now, you know, because look what happened to Parker and look at where he's at right now versus where Wilder's at. Or look what happened to Joshua and where he's at right now. You just never really know. You know what I mean? So we'll wait and see. You know, but Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, too. They're talking about possibly having the second rematch in June. Look, the way I look at it, and I've been saying this too. You know, whether if I didn't know if Katie Taylor was going to fight Chantel Cameron for a third time, but or fight Amanda Serrano for a second. But if they do have their rematch, they should close out their careers. And that's the only point I wanted to make here when it comes to those two. I just think that Serrano and Katie Taylor, like, they're older, they're past their prime, they're still very good, they're still elite, but they're past their prime. And they don't have to stay to the very end. I don't want these younger fighters to come up and start picking them apart. You gave us a classic in the first fight. You gave us one of the best women's boxing matches we've ever seen, right? in one of the best fights that year in all of boxing. Give us, if you guys got a rematch, give us that fight and walk away from the sport. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know how the fight would go. I would probably be leaning towards Taylor, but I did state that the outcome of the fight, they should both walk away, regardless of who wins, who loses. I think they've done enough, and they are part of the reason why women's boxing is where it's at today. We've had other boxers in the past, like Ann Wolfe and Layla Ali and all these other fighters, but those two are part of the reason why it is what it is today. It's very popular now. It can still get bigger, but those two, what they did, dope. All right. All right. We're coming to a close here. I think before I get into the 154 stuff. Usyk Cruz, Rolly Romero. Usyk destroys Rolly in 8 rounds? Let's see. Usyk Cruz. I didn't do a breakdown. I wanted to, but I was like everybody else. Like I thought Cruz was a good choice. I just never rated. I'm at a point, and some of you may disagree with me, but I'm not convinced that Rolly Romero was ever really world level. And I'm not just judging based on the outcome of this fight. I think he's just a fighter that he was signed to the right people. He was connected to the right people. And because of his personality on and off social media, he got put in position for these big fights. The WBA, and I always say this is worse than the WBC to me. I think it's that bad. The WBA is like the influencer title to me. It's a joke of a title. There's no way you can justify some of the champions and some of the rankings in certain these divisions. It is specifically there to put certain people, to make certain people champions and to protect certain champions. It just never makes sense to me. Listen, I could complain about all 4 sanctioned bodies. The IBF, the WBC, of course, sucks too, but the WBO, but the WBA, Rolly, to me, has not, right? He has not done anything. Like, seriously. I think he's done at bare minimum, put himself to be a contender against another top contender. I'm sorry. My nose is pretty stuffy. But look, did he even win the fight against Jackson Marinas? When I'm looking at his resume here, Jackson Marinas, did he win that fight? No, I don't believe he did. Right? He stops Anthony Yiggett. Right? It's just okay. It's okay, but you stop Anthony Yiggett and you stop Ari Sparrow and you earn a Gervonta Tate Davis fight. You get a gift win by Ismael Barroso because they stopped the fight prematurely. It's one of the worst stoppages we've ever seen. And you were getting your ass kicked in that fight. And then you just got destroyed by Usyk Cruz. The worst part about it is how the hell, and there's no disrespect because I like Usyk Cruz. I think he's legit. I think he's tough for anybody. This was an easy call. Like if you predicted Usyk Cruz to win by knockout, easy. I'm surprised Tank even went public and said that Rolly was going to knock him out. Usyk Cruz is legit. He's going to be tough for a lot of fighters. Why? Pressure, power, and he's so short. You know what I mean? These guys are going to have problems. We were just talking about this with Hitchins last night against what's his name? Gustavo. It Rolly is not good. How do you justify him going from getting knocked out by Tank, right? And not even for the super lightweight title. This is for the regular lightweight title. You get knocked out by Tank just to fight Ismael Barroso, a 40-year-old, at 140 for your first fight after coming off a knockout loss. How do you justify this title is voided? And again, not to take anything away from Usyk Cruz, but he's super small at 140. You just beat a lightweight that had no business being a champion at 140. This title, the WBA title, is voided, in my opinion. No real 140 pounder has fought for that title. No legitimate top contender at 140 has fought for that title. This could just be another opportunity for Tank to fight Usyk Cruz at a rematch down the line at 140. I don't know what this is, but the WBA, in the way that they're moving, they're just handing down this title to random PBC fighters right now. There's no reason. Like, Ismail, listen, Cruz, good win. You did what you had to do. You took care of the garbage. Good. But you are not a legitimate 140 pounder. Your hype is based off you going a distance with a fighter that you lost to. That's it. You're holding on to that. You went the distance with Tank. You outperformed everybody else that fought Tank, but you still lost. There's nothing else that can warrant why either one of those guys were fighting for a title at 140. It's ridiculous. Yes, Elney, yes. They stripped Cordina right away. It doesn't make any sense. I know they are suspect too, but I think WBA is number one. I think the WBA is by far the worst. Because I just don't even know with their rankings and their champions and their fights. All right, but look, Cruz. What do I want to see? Well, you know what? I want Cruz to fight a real. I don't. Cruz has been protected since the Tank fight. Okay, they have not put him in there with a legitimate top fighter at 135 or at 140. I would love to see Cruz fight any of those guys. To prove that he really belongs. But I don't think he belongs at 140. He's just too small. He's tiny. So I think a lot of people fights beats him at 140. I don't think that fight proves that you are a true champion at 130 at 140. Rolly Romero would be beaten by a lot of people. Jackson Marinas beat him before Tank. Okay. That guy is not a legit. I don't even know. Like I said, I started this by saying I don't even know if he's really world level. There's no way to really prove that he's world level to me. So they're at the worst for me. I mean, listen, congratulations to Cruz, but I can't picture him being a legit. Like, I think he's there right now with that title to possibly fight the winner of Haney and Ryan, or even the loser, possibly. Because if Haney beats Ryan, I can still see Ryan fighting this guy. And I do say stylistically, listen, even though I think Cruz is small, I still do think that stylistically he's hard for a lot of people because of his style and because of his lack of size or lack of height. But I'm basing that off of one performance, and that performance is a fight that he lost in against Tank Davis. All right, so our final topic of the day is going to be 154, and I'm going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about Tim Tszyu, Fedora. All right, I'm going to talk about our new champions here. There's a lot to discuss. Let me pull up the division because I don't want to forget anybody's names. We got a lot of Eastern European champions and interim champions and Mandos, and so I want to have everything on point when I discuss this division because it's always been this division and Terrence Crawford. You know, if you ever hear this video, if you know someone that's watching, this is a cursed division. It's a cursed division for the undefeated. No one stays undefeated here. Very few was able to move through this division, keeping their O. This is the most dangerous division here. You know, outside of the heavyweight, I think this is the most dangerous division. No one is safe here. Okay. This division reminds me of the UFC. All these guys in MMA, all these guys that got losses, a lot of losses. People lose here. No one just goes there with a clean sweep. All right. Canelo got his first loss here. J-Rock, Jarrett Hurd. All right. Tim Tszyu, Sebastian Fundora. Everybody lose here. So Terrence Crawford, who is my favorite current boxer, he needs to respect the division. What's up, Matt? Thank you for the donation. Is that J. Cole in your thing? What's up with that J. Cole diss, man? What was he doing, man? He could have did a little bit more than that, man. But I thank you for donating, man. He said Vergil was never world level. I picked Smith over him. Yeah. But let's get back to the topic. And thank you again. Thank you. Terrence Crawford, 154. Errol Spence, too. Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, Vergil Ortiz. You guys that's moving up to this division, you got to understand something. Let's make things clear. All right. These guys will beat you if you're there to make one simple mistake. Seriously. It doesn't matter if you're the best. Everybody catches an L here. That's all I gotta say. It's been like that for the entire time I've been making this content on this channel. If you guys been here for the last 10 years, this has been my favorite division. Canelo, Austin Trout, J. Rock Williams, all right, Jamel Charlo, Tony Harrison, all of these guys took L's. James Kirkland. It happens. It doesn't matter how much of a killer you looked in your previous fight, somebody's going to take your O. And then some. And you know what? You might take a couple L's and still become a champion again. This is why I love this division, because the belts gets passed around often. Yes, Arislandi Lara. You look unbeatable until there's an upset. You might have a good year at best. And Tim Tszyu, Fedora, look, it's part of the sport, man. I know, like, I listen to some people, some of you content creators, you know, I see your posts on social media. Everybody's blaming what Tim Tszyu, PBC did this, they destroyed them, like they planned this. And listen, when we talking about the actual fight, is one of those scenarios where shit happens. He caught an elbow that no one was at fault. All right, I'm talking about the elbow that left a crater in Tim Tszyu's head that bled. One of the most bloodiest fights that we've seen. Tim Tszyu got caught with an elbow. It is what it is, man. The guy said, and we know how Tim Tszyu is. I was just talking, I praise this guy because he really wants to fight the top dudes. Tim Tszyu, yeah, the fight could have been stopped. Yes, the cut was bad enough. The doctor say, you know what? It's a no contest. They could have made it a no contest. But you know what? You know who wanted to keep fighting? Tim Tszyu. You know what it is? He almost still won. He almost still won. I think Fedora did enough to win. Everything that I said about Fundora that he needed to do, he did it. Used his jab, kept the distance. Tim Tszyu was able to get through, but with all that blood, Tim Tszyu was getting hit too much. I had to give it to Fundora. Fundora won the fight under the circumstances. Now, those first couple rounds, I thought Tim Tszyu was doing exactly, he was getting in range, landing those hard right hands to the body. You know what I mean? He was doing what he was supposed to do. And he kept doing it, but he couldn't see, man. He was getting hit, but everything that Fundora was doing. In fact, I'm surprised Tim Tszyu didn't get knocked out. Because he got hit hit so much and he was bleeding. He couldn't see. The fact that he was still smiling while getting hit was like, yo, this guy's crazy. This guy's a nut job. So I respect for Tszyu. Listen, he took an L. It happens, man. It's part of the game, man. It wasn't your night. Something happened that caused the bleeding. And you went for it anyway. It is what it is. You know, now everybody's going into the conspiracies and stuff. I'm not talking about the conspiracies. The fight went on. And this is what happened. The fight went on. The elbow was not planned. Could it have been stopped by a doctor? Yes. But Fundora, don't take any credit away from him. No one lost that night. Officially, yes, Tszyu lost. He has a loss on his record. But no, there was no losers there. Fundora fought a good fight. He deserves all the credit he's getting. Good fight. Good comeback win. That's what I was talking about earlier with Joseph Parker, with Anthony Joshua. Good win. You got knocked out in your fight. Everybody counted you out, including myself. And you know what? You still won with a broken nose. Mind you, he's cut too. Now, it's not cut over the eye, but he's bleeding too. He's hurt, and he's still well. He won the fight. He won. It is what it is. You know what? That's part of the sport. We can't run with the triangle theory. We can't do it. We know that. We know that. What's this guy's? Brian Mendoza beat and knocked out Fundora, but you can't forget that Fundora was winning every single round before that knockout. And I stated this in a breakdown. Yeah, I was wrong on the pick, but I made the points that needed to be said in that video. Watch that fight with Brian Mendoza. Fundora is winning. He just got caught with a good shot. And that's it. That's part of the game. Great fight, by the way. Great fight. It was a great fight. I just hate the fact that, you know, the blood was in the way. But, yo, the fight, it has to get scored. And I just don't think Tim Tszyu did enough. I think Tim Tszyu was getting hit with everything that Fundora was throwing. One thing that shows me is that Tim Tszyu got a chin. Because if Tim Tszyu could walk through all of that, when Fundora was stopping guys like Erickson Lupin, if Tim Tszyu can still walk through all of that with a damn crater in his head, it goes to show me that he's legit. Even in defeat, he's legit. And Fundora showed me that he's legit too. That he can fight behind the jab and keep his opponent on the end of his jab and move and time them. I love the fight. I love the performance from both. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do. Now, there's all this stuff with Errol Spence. Listen, Errol's doing what he needs to do. You know, Errol's trying to get back in the mix. And PBC wants to put him back in the mix. You know what I mean? I mean, they're doing what they have to do. That's their guy. So as far as what's right and what's wrong, of course, Terrence Crawford deserves a title shot over him. He just beat Errol. But this is where the sanctioning body comes in and do their job. Force the mandatory, which they did. Terrence Crawford is up WBO titles on the line, including the WBC title. Both of those titles were on the line that night. WBO, WBC. All right, so WBO has already stepped in. Said like, yo, nah, Crawford, is up next, not Spence. If Sebastian Fundora, if he wants to drop that belt and face Errol Spence, I mean, he's already said in the interview that Errol Spence is great, but Terrence Crawford is the best fighter in the world. I want that fight. He said that. Does the PBC want that fight? No, because Crawford is not a PBC fighter. He's not. He fought Spence for that one fight. So they're going to roll with Errol. They're going to push Errol. They're going to push their fighter, who is Sebastian Fundora, to fight their other fighter, who is Errol Spence. This is where the sanctioning bodies step in. The WBO says, no, we're ordering this fight. Make it work. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. I saw something about both of these guys are going to be suspended. I'm talking about Fundora. I was talking about Tim Tszyu because of the injuries that they received in this fight. I don't know where it's going to go. All I know that Crawford, things got spoiled here because this is 154, baby. Like, fights get spoiled. We know you wanted Jamel. Jamel lost to Canelo. Jamel doesn't even have a title right now. We know that you wanted Tim Tszyu. Well, Tim Tszyu just lost. He don't have a title. I'm cool with the rematch, by the way, Jay Bands. I see your comment. All right. Most likely it's going to be a rematch. But who does Crawford face? Well, Josh Kelly is the #1 guy at the WBO. He's next in line. So if the belt get vacated, he would be fighting Josh Kelly. But we already know Josh Kelly is nowhere. It's not fighting Josh Kelly. Let's be honest. Josh Kelly against Terrence Crawford? Nah. It's not going to happen. It's just a huge mismatch right there. But he's in the rankings. He's that #1 guy. But Josh Kelly is a huge mismatch for Crawford. In fact, I'm willing to say that that would be Crawford's easiest fights, and that would be a monumental upset if that fight were to happen and Crawford were to lose to Josh Kelly. That it would be, Avanesian, Porter, Brook, Kavalauskas, Khan, Benavidez Jr., Jeff Horn. I would expect Josh Kelly just to be at the lowest for me, but if he's the guy that you got to fight, if Josh Kelly says no, then you got Erickson Lupin. Now that's a legit fight. Now, is it the #1 fight I want to see? No, but it's a legit fight. Erickson Lupin is good. He's a southpaw. He's bigger than Crawford. He's a true 154 guy. He's good. He's coming off a good win too. It's possible. It's a possibility. Or let's see who else is at this division because there's a million people up here. All right. So let's talk about all of the other fighters here. Let's go to champions. I'm on BoxRec right now because I don't want to get it confused. So to break this down, Jamel Charlo is no longer a champion right now. All right. So Israel Madrimov is now the WBA champion. He is a super champion. He just beat Magomed Kurbanov, right? Stopped him in 5 rounds. So he is the champion. He's no defeats. He has 1 draw against Michel Sorrell. Tough fight. Him and Kurbanov had tough fights against Michel Sorrell, but he is currently the champion with the WBA title. So they're saying that he's a possible opponent for Crawford. All right. And that may be, depending on what happens with Josh Kelly, that may be a unification match for Crawford. WBA, WBO titles will be on the line. All right. Of course, like you said, you got for Sebastian Fundora. I don't know if he's going to make the fight. I think he should. I don't think any of these fights are easy for Crawford, by the way. I didn't think Tim Tszyu was an easy fight. I don't think that Sebastian Fundora is an easy fight. I don't think any of these fights are easy for Crawford. Crawford is going to be moving up. All right. And he's moving up into a division that I think anybody can lose in. I don't think any of these fighters are easy. Also, all right, also, Bakram Murtazaliev just won the IBF against who? Jack Koke. All right, he just fought Jack Koke against that one of those vacant titles that Jamel used to have. Now, Bakram, very familiar with him. I've brought him up in other videos about 154. Bakram has been the #1 ranked IBF fighter since 2019. All right. I brought up a video when I was discussing Errol Spence Jr. and the IBF. Remember when they stripped Terrence Crawford? I made a video about that. And who did I bring up in that video? I brought up, no, wait, am I getting confused? I think I was talking about the IBF, but I think I brought up Bakram. Bakram has been the #1 guy at the IBF for 5 years. All right. Somebody was talking about the IBF. One of you guys were talking about the IBF earlier. 2019, October. I wrote it down. Bakram has been the #1. And no, he's not fighting anyone good. His resume, it's no one good there. But Bakram has been the #1 guy in the IBF since October of 2019. Almost 5 years. What's going on with these bandos? What's going on? Bakram almost spoiled the rematch between Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano. You got to remember, when that fight went down, everybody wanted an immediate rematch. A lot of people felt that Castano won the fight. A lot of people thought it was a gift for Jermell. Cool. The rematch was going down, but the IBF stepped in and said, nah, Bakram, he got to get his shot. Maybe they gave him a step aside. I don't know. But Bakram has been, he's a Russian fighter, undefeated, huge puncher. Again, he just stopped Jack Koke. Doesn't really have any other notable names on his resume. Right? I only looked him up. I found out about him once he became Jamel's mandatory a few years ago. All right, but this guy is now the champion. All right. And then who else do we have here? So we got Sergey Bohachuk. This is another guy that is now the Mando for the WBC, which Fedor now holds. So Bohachuk just destroyed Brian Mendoza the other day, the same day on the same card. All right, got to remember, Brian Mendoza was sparring and training with Tim Tszyu because they both had fights on this card. This guy Bohachuk, if I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong, he just beat Brian Mendoza. So Mendoza has 2 losses back to back now, one against Tim Tszyu and one against Bohachuk. And this fight is on YouTube, by the way. The PBC already released the entire fight. Check it out. Bohachuk is the real deal. I think he's from the Ukraine, right? Yeah, he's from the Ukraine. He has 1 loss against Brandon Adams. So he has an almost perfect KO ratio, 24 wins, 23 knockouts. This guy is heavy-handed. But he got clipped by Brandon Adams back in 2021, not too long ago. All right? Again, you got to watch the fight, guys, if it's available on the internet. Just don't look at BoxRec. I did find the fight on the internet. The fight is available. Yes, Brandon Adams. Yes, the one that Jermell Charlo faced. Yes. He knocked out Bohachuk. Much smaller than Bohachuk. Bohachuk, again, just like I was saying, Fedor against Brian Mendoza. Just like in this fight here, Bohachuk was winning the entire fight, clearly. Backing Brandon Adams out. He just got caught slipping, got caught with a quick hook, was a little too close, got countered, got caught, and got stopped. It happens. So he does have 1 loss. He got caught with a good shot, but he is currently the WBC Mando. All right? He is a WBC Mando right now. So you got Bohachuk, and then you have so you have Bohachuk, you have Bakram, who's the IBF champ. Who's the other guy? So as far as champions right now, it's all over the place. See, once Jamel vacated these titles, they became available to everyone. So you have Israel Madrimov, who's the WBA champ. You have Bakram Murtazaliev, who's the IBF champ. You have Sebastian Fundora, who's the WBC and the WBO champ. But Fundora has mandatories from both the WBC and the WBO. Excuse me, but the WBO is coming. It comes first. WBO already ordered that fight. What do I think about the WBO? You asked. I think at one point it was a top ranked title. I'll be honest. I think sometimes the titles belong to certain sanctioning bodies. Like I think the WBA is a mainly a PBC title. You know, depending on the division. The titles tend to get passed around and stay within a certain promoter's hands. You know, but sometimes it happens that way as well because certain promoters don't want to deal with other promoters, or certain networks don't want to deal with other networks. So the WBO for years, Manny Pacquiao, Marquez, Tim Bradley years, was the WBO was a top ranked title. You know, but 154 is deep, and I don't know what Crawford is going to do, but I'm assuming that Crawford's next opponent is not going to be a guy against a guy that everybody wants to see. You know, and as far as Fundora and Tim Tszyu, if they don't run him back, which warrants, I mean, that fight definitely warrants a rematch, but I can't say the titles are going to be around because there's no rematch clause for Tszyu and for Fundora. They're saying that it's a verbal agreement. I don't know how far you want to go with that, but if they do have a rematch, fine. But if they have a rematch, it's not going to be for the WBO at least. And if Crawford is going to fight for a WBO strap, he is going to either fight the number one guy who is Josh Kelly, or maybe the number two guy who is Erickson Lupin, or whatever rankings they want to move down, or they might just say, well, we're going to have you fight for this vacant title against another champion. Which champion will it be? I don't think people are going to care to see him fight Murtazaliev or Madrimov. They're not going to care to see him fight one of those guys because they don't have names. You know, they're Eastern European fighters that people are not going to care for. But these fights are not easy fights. None of them are. Madrimov, not easy. Murtazaliev, not easy. Fundora, not easy. None of these fights are easy. I don't think Tim Tszyu was easy. I don't think none of them fights is easy. I know people like just wore the shit down. I don't think any of these guys at 154 are easy to just run through. And that goes the same for Spence. If he's not careful, he might get stopped again. And I didn't speak on the Derrick James situation. Look, man, I don't know what's going on with Derrick James. There's rumors and everybody's making content on whether or not Spence is supposed to be suing, or I'm sorry, James is supposed to be suing Spence because he hasn't paid them the right amount for certain fights. I hate to see that. You know, I hate to see fighters and trainers go through like financial like crisis. You know what I mean? Like I don't like to see that. Like, especially like, for example, Danny Jacobs. You know, him and Andre Rozier was like always like he's like a father figure to him. If when they broke up, it was a nasty breakup. It was all about financial issues, you know, and I hate to hear that because it's like, yo, again, if you decide to move on with your career, that's one thing, but it's when it's about the money, I hate to hear that. And it's usually when fighters are coming off their biggest fights. It's usually when a fighter is coming off their biggest financial fights. So I hate to hear it. Whether he sticks with James or not, that's on you. You know, I mean, I personally think that, and I know a lot of guys has been like abandoning Danny. Derrick James lately because, you know, a lot of fighters that he's with, they lost. And look, man, I don't know what Arrow can do here. I always thought that Arrow's style was just not a good style for Spence. I mean, Arrow's style good for Terrence Crawford. You guys know, you guys been here. Always predicted Crawford to knock him out. Um, but I don't know. Where do you go from here? I really don't know. But if Arrow is going to be moving up, and whether he fights Tim Tszyu, whether he fights Sebastian Fedor, or whoever, I don't think it gets any easier from here. And I don't think it gets any easier from here. If you're not going to fight Crawford in a rematch, or Crawford's not going to fight you, then don't think that these other fights are just walkovers. They're not. All of these guys I just named, all good fighters. And then you still got the other guys that's still there, like Jesus Reyes and Erickson Lubin, and it's a lot of guys there. It's a lot of talent there. I know they have elves, but don't sleep on them. Will Zamora says Brian Mendoza versus Vergil Ortiz Jr. would be a good fight. Yeah, it would be a good fight. I don't think Golden Boy is going to do it right now because I think they're moving him very carefully. And I'm talking about Vergil Ortiz. But he's just gotta wait and see. If you put him up there with Tomas Delarme, that just shows me you're moving him very carefully because of the health issues. E-Class says, "What's up, man? What's up with you, man? What's good?" DJ Rush says, "Which sanctioned body do you think the B-side fighters or fighters with less popularity have a better chance of moving up the rankings? I know the WBA and WBC are the more supportive popularity." Yeah, I mean, they are. They are more popular. I don't particularly think that it really depends on the sanctioned body. I think it depends on who the opponent is. Like I was talking about Rolly Romero. And Rolly Romero is at where he's at. He's a top fighter based on him, just his name being aligned with all the superstars. Rolly is not really that good of a fighter, and he never was. I think, like, again, he's not world level. But I don't, the WBC and the WBA are probably more likely to put you in a fight or make you fight for some stupid title, one of their many titles, bullshit titles, and depending on who the opponent is, they're more likely to sanction the bullshit fights for the bullshit fighters. You know what I mean? I guess that's my answer to that. FC says, among Fedor, Tszyu, Crawford, Spence, Bullchuck, Vergil Ortiz, what matchups are more intriguing for you and why? I still kind of want to see Tim Tszyu against Terrence Crawford. I said this before his fight with Sebastian Fedor, and I still believe that. I know Tim Tszyu just lost, but I still think Tim Tszyu might be the most difficult for Crawford at 154 right now. Madrimov looked good. He looked good. I still want to see more, but he looks good. I've seen him fight a few times. Bohachuk is good, but I can see exactly how he gets knocked out by Crawford. And Bakram is still very unknown. Like, he knocked out, he stops Jack Colque, but Jack Colque has been around for a long time, and Jack Colque good, but he's always lost the big ones. You know what I mean? Like, Jack Colque lost to like Selecki, he lost to Andrade. He lost when it was time to really step up, but he's good. So I would have to say Tim Tszyu and Crawford is still my number one fight at 154. Again, I don't know where Jamel is at. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he's going to just move up. I'm assuming that Jamel is going to move up to 160. I think Tim Tszyu, even losing a Fedor, I think Tim Tszyu stylistically might be the best matchup for Crawford. So I kind of want to see that. But I do kind of want to see Fedor Tim Tszyu rematch because I want to know who is really the winner. You know what I mean? Without any, I mean, Fedor is a winner, but I want to see them without, like, in a straight up fight. You know, without the excess bleeding. What's up, Pocket? What's good with you, bro? All right. All right, man. I think I covered everything today. I did a total catch up in all of pretty much most of the boxing topics right now. I hope I kept you guys entertained. You know, it was a lot of stuff. I'm starving right now. I gotta eat, man. But I'm gonna get food, and you know, I'm gonna chop this up and put sections for this video because I know people are gonna come, and I talked about everything there. Yeah, so I'll go. Hope you guys entertained. Sorry for the wait. I hope you guys enjoyed it. All right. Again, if you are new, subscribe, share the video. I talked about everything. I talked about these weekend's fights, you know. So you if you're just coming in, go back. I talked about Hitchins' fight last night. I talked about the fights from last weekend. I talked about everything, all the news, upcoming fights. So I talked about everything here. You know, I basically did 3 wave reports in one video. So again, thank you guys for checking me out today. Have a good rest of your Sunday. All right. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.